Hi, I'm Angel with ShannonFabrics and FleeceFun.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful easy duvet. Now I have to tell you, we are using a very special fabric in this. It is 90-inch wide cuddle. You heard me correctly, 90-inch wide. That is the size of a queen blanket. So imagine quilts, big blankets, or duvet covers in this case. Oh yes. Cuddle has left the nursery and grown up and put on its big boy pants and is now on my queen size bed, and I can't tell you how happy that makes me. For this project, you will need the following. You will need 5 packages of Baby Blue Moon Cuddle Cake Kits. That's available for sale in the Fleece Fun online gift shop. 2 7/8 yards of the 90-inch wide cuddle fabric. 2 yards of 1/2 inch ribbon, thread, walking foot, stretch needle, rotary cutter, ruler, and mat, and of course sewing essentials. Alright, now that you have all those items, it's time to get started. I wanted my duvet cover to have some personality, so I used the Baby Blue Moon Cuddle Cake Kits for the top to give it kind of a varied look. You'll need to open up the cuddle kits and decide how you want each row to look, how each row will look next to each other. So be sure to have an overall design concept figured out before you begin sewing the rows together. Lay it all out and see what you like. For a queen size cover, I'm making it 90 by 90 inches. So I'll need to make 10 rows that are 10 blocks long, 10 by 10 with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, which makes the top 90 by 90. Lay out your rows. Make sure that the cuddle fabric is all laying in the same direction. Be sure to check the nap as you go. Alright, now that you have a general idea of how you want your top laid out, it's time to start sewing. Pin blocks right sides together and sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Sew all the blocks in the row together and repeat for each row. Continue until all 10 rows are sewn. Alright, that's looking good. Let's move on. Begin to sew the rows together. With right sides together, pin and sew 2 rows together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now, when you're pinning all of those squares and those rows together, I like to make sure that all of the seams line up. So I pin the seams first, and then I go back and pin the centers. It's important to do it this way because, one, you want your seams to line up or it's going to look really weird on your top because it'll be crooked. And also, it kind of compensates for the knit fabric. It can kind of stretch a little bit, and you can fudge it a little bit if it's a little bit off. So line up those seams when you're sewing the rows together. Continue to build by adding a row at a time and sewing them together until all 10 rows are sewn together. Set aside. All right, now that you've got that finished, let's move on. Cut the back so it's 90 inches wide by 90 inches long. Set aside. Okay, that was a really quick step. Let's move on. With the remainder of the 90-inch cuddle fabric, cut 2 strips that are 4 inches wide and 21 inches long. Take each strip and fold it in on itself lengthwise so it's 21 inches by 2 inches wide, and pin the ends and sew the ends using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Turn right side out. Take the ribbon and cut it into 12-inch strips. Finish the ends of the ribbon with a match to prevent fraying. Please use caution when you're using the match. Pin 3 ribbons at intervals along each of the strips of the cuddle fabric. Sew the ribbon ends on using a zigzag stitch. Set these aside. Alright, it's becoming quite the big blanket now, isn't it? Okay, it's time to bring that big blanket together. With right sides together, pin the back and the front together. Be sure to leave a 20-inch gap at the bottom for turning and for the gap strips. Using a 1/2 inch seam allowance and a walking foot, sew the back and the front together, leaving a turning gap. Now, one thing you want to be mindful of is that you are dealing with long and heavy lengths of fabric, and you want to make sure that when you're sewing this fabric that your machine is only worried about pushing fabric through, that it's not draping over the side pulling on the needle. It's not good for the mechanics of your machine. It can break your needle, and honestly, it can mess up your stitch. So make sure that that weight isn't pulling on your needle, that it's just worried about basically pushing the fabric through. Take the 2 gap ties from earlier and pin one onto either side of the turning gap. The sides with the ribbon should be touching the right side of the duvet, so using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Trim your threads. Turn the entire thing right side out and stuff your duvet in. Tie the gap shut with the ribbons, and you're finished. And you're finished. You have this beautiful duvet. It was honestly very easy. All the stitches in it are very easy. It's just kind of big and cumbersome when you're dealing with a queen size item. But let me tell you, it feels so good. And it's a great way of adding instant warmth to a comforter, because let me tell you, Cuddle fabric, it keeps heat in. It is good, you know, for warmth and all that good stuff. I just like Cuddle fabric. I'm gonna be honest with you, I do. If you liked this tutorial, there are several more on ShannonFabrics' YouTube channel that I know you'll enjoy. Also be sure to check out ShannonFabrics.com to find out more about their 90-inch Cuddle fabric, because yes, it's going fast, because adults like myself are like going, ooh, I can make something for me. So be sure to check out all their fun things. They also have a great blog where bloggers like myself, we go and we guest post and share fun ideas for Cuddle fabric. It's a great resource for you. Have a great day. Shannon Fabrics, making the world a softer place.